It is difficult to give a precise definition of color correction because the field is so broad that it is difficult to draw boundaries around it. However, we can make a rough distinction by stating that the techniques we apply fall into two broad areas. One strictly corrective, which aims to solve the problems that an image may present. The other more creative, in which we intervene on one or more color areas, sometimes in a heavy-handed way. Let me give you an example. This photograph has a yellow cast. Looking at it, we get the feeling that something is wrong with the color, but we can prove it with numbers. The easiest way to numerically evaluate the colors in an image is to use LAB coordinates. If you're not familiar with them, the first coordinate, L, indicates the lightness of what we are seeing, but says nothing about the color itself. The other two coordinates, A and B, define the hue and saturation of what we are seeing, regardless of lightness. To give a simple example, if we examine the color of a leaf, L tells us whether the leaf is light or dark, while A and B tell us what kind of green we are looking at and whether it is intense or subtle. LAB is useful because there are formulas that allow us to understand whether a color is realistic or not. These are the formulas for so-called known colors, which are typical of very common subjects: skin tone, vegetation, sky, and so on. We will not go into detail, but the rule on skin tone states that normally both A and B must be positive. As far as A is concerned, this means that the skin tone tends towards magenta, while as far as B is concerned, it means that it tends towards yellow. The combination of positive A and B in equal parts defines the color red, and the rule suggests that B should be greater than A, so that the skin tends towards its natural tone, which is usually a fairly soft orange. Be careful though, B should not be too high compared to A, because too high a yellow component gives the skin a jaundiced appearance. In our case, B is more than double A, which is suspicious. Let's also examine the color of the teeth. The negative value of A indicates a tendency towards green, which is hard to believe, because teeth can be slightly yellow, but not green. These two readings can be interpreted as meaning that there is too little magenta, or too much green if you prefer, in the photo. I will show you a more acceptable version of the photograph obtained by applying a simple curve in Photoshop to the original. At this point, however, we may want to produce a version like this, in which the color of the dress and the background have undergone significant changes. The question is, what is the fastest and most intuitive way to proceed in Photoshop to achieve a high-quality result? This video explores the potential offered by the MTC ChromaWarp panel, designed and created by Carlo Diamanti. Before exploring it in detail, let's evaluate the alternatives.